Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Carl's Roller Coaster Podcast. Hello, Jamie. Welcome to the roller coaster, my friend. How are you?
Hello. I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, man. All good. Pleasure to have you here. Can't wait to talk to you about, all sorts of things. I've been listening to Perfume of Decay like non-stop. It became like an obsession. The songs, the lyrics. I mean, I was just before the conversation here reading a Kerrang article about that you basically talk through all of the songs and explain the lyrics, and You're My Dopamine. It's just like it really resonates with me. But yeah, I mean, thanks for making the time, man. I'd love to kind of start from, early days of Jamie Hall. I mean, where were you born? Where did you grow up? And tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. Rad. Well, I was born in London, but I moved up to Sunderland when I was like 2 years old. So I was brought up to Sunderland, which is a part of the northeast of England, up quite near Newcastle. And yeah, grew up in a sort of working class single family. And yeah, I mean, went to state school, had a great upbringing. But with all the challenges that come with growing up working class and all of that stuff. So yeah, I moved to Brighton when I was 18. I went to uni, and I met Janix there, the drummer of Tigercub, and then we started operating as Tigercub for a bit, and then we found Jimmy, but our bass player, and that's been the lineup ever since. Long may it continue. So that's like the brief introduction.
And when did you first pick up an instrument? Was it the guitar straight away?
Yeah. So I actually started getting classical guitar lessons when I was younger. There was this guy in town that my mum found out about, and she thought that'd be the right shout for me. So I actually learned like fingerstyle guitar to start with, and started like learning sight reading and stuff, and like started with a lot of Russian sort of traditional folk music and classical music and stuff, and stuff like When the Saints Come In. And it wasn't quite Back in Black by AC/DC, but I stuck at it for a bit, and it sort of gave me these sensibilities on the guitar that I've still got now, to start with my fingers and stuff, and hybrid picking and stuff like that. So I think I was in secondary school. I think I was like year 7. So what's that, like 12, 13 years old when I started playing the guitar. And then I fell into like the sort of pub covers circuit in the northeast, which I imagine it is still like a really big thing now, but back then when I was growing up, it was really big. There was like a huge covers circuit and like a lot of working men's clubs that you could go and play in. And get really cheap beer from as well, which is great. And yeah, like my buddy from school, like his dad ran a pub in this place in County Durham called Peter Lee, and we had to rehearse there, and then we eventually got our first gig there, and we started playing covers around all the pubs and working men's clubs around County Durham, Sunderland and Newcastle. And that's kind of like how I cut my teeth when I was like 14 through to like college. And it was great because I was living at home and I was making quite good money out of it, like straight away out of the box. And so I was able to build lots of equipment and lots of stupid stuff that you buy when you're like 15 years old. So yeah, it was great. That's what gave me the spark and love of music. And I picked up a couple of chops early and started to learn how the mechanics of playing in a live band works, sound checks, playing on stage long periods of time, tuning your guitar up, having the right equipment, stage presence, stuff like that. It's like a really great way, I think, to learn firsthand how all of that stuff works, learn by doing. So that was really great for me, and then I moved down to Brighton when I was 18. after I actually went to college with like the D-Mob Happy guys and like a bunch of people that are doing really, really well in music, like Matty Fant. He's in this really great band called Vant. Um, and yeah, it was a really great time, really great scene in Sunderland and Newcastle. I saw there was a lot of great bands that would come through town, through Sunderland especially, and play at a venue called the Independent, and they would play there when they're warming up, like Glastonbury and Reading and Leeds Festival and stuff like that. They'd like come up and do shows, like I guess like under the place. So I got to see like, yeah, like the Maccabees and stuff like that in old sweaty clubs, and it's just a really great time, man. It was a time when the noughties, the aughts, when quite weird angular guitar music was popular genre. So it's just awesome fucking time.
Very cool, man. So you did like the pub gigs and all that very early on, and making some money earlier on as well. I mean, that's like amazing. I'm quite curious to know what's the kind of stupid stuff that at the age of 15 you'd spend more money on besides buying guitar equipment and, well, amps and things like that. I'm quite curious. What does that mean?
It's beer.
The love of beer.
Dude. Yeah. Beer, mate. I know you're a fan of beer.
I'm a big fan of beer, man. Big fan of beer. Really am. Really understand a little bit about it. And, we're going to go for some tastings at some point. I'll take you to some good places to taste some great beers. And I have actually a collection of lambics and Belgian beers that are just aging and are waiting always the right time to crack them open. So, yeah, definitely we're going to share a bottle sometime soon for sure.
Mate, let's go to a show. We'll go to a show and we'll do some tasting beforehand and we'll have it.
Definitely.
It'd be great.
I almost went to Brighton last weekend was last weekend? Noel Gallagher was playing on the beach, the festival.
Oh, yeah. I got VIP tickets to that thing. It was Hollywood. Yeah, I was there. I would have seen you.
Oh man, yeah. I mean,
I just got like the day before.
The weather was a bit like the forecast wasn't great, so I was like, I mean, I'm not gonna go all the way from London there, so missed that one.
Yeah, the weather was quite bad. Yeah, it was raining the whole time. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, the last train out Brighton's like 20 to 12. So yeah, you wouldn't exactly have been able to stay long, but yeah, we'll do it, man.
Definitely,
I want to do that.
Definitely. Jamie, so when it comes from like, are you a single child? Or do you have any brothers and sisters?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Did your parents have any influence in you in terms of the music that you were listening to growing up, or any influence on you picking up an instrument and starting, everything that you just told us about, or nothing to do with your parents' family?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, my parents both, they love music. My mom likes classical music. She plays flute. She's like she's a classically trained flautist. So there's always like classical music in the house. She's a massive U2 fan. She's a massive Duran Duran fan. And I don't know, she just used to play a lot of music. Nothing like too crate diggery or anything like that. She just sort of enjoys music that she likes. She used to have this like Backstreet Boys CD she would just play constantly. She absolutely loved that shit, which I love as well. It's great. So yeah, there's a lot of that around the house on my mum's side, and then my dad, when he came back on the scene, I got opened up to Thin Lizzy, AC/DC, White Snake, Cream, all the great, dad rock stuff. Bad Company. I've got a real affinity with all of that music. Boston, Sammy Hagar, although, kind of whatever. Who else? Rainbow. Fucking loads of great stuff that I go back to and just still absolutely love. But yeah, whole classic rock thing, and that like fed into being in the pub cover bands and stuff as well, because we'd be covering all of this. You know, we there'd be certain tracks that you have to play because they're like standards, and it's an interesting discussion that you have between the other band members in a covers band, because you want to pick the tracks that the most people are likely to know, you know, that you can provide entertainment for them. But then, you know, we'd always sneak in weird sort of B-sides and tracks that we like from a lot of Oasis as well, especially around that time. You know, I kind of hated Oasis at the time because
Did you?
yeah, like, because all of the lads that I didn't get on with, the sort of jockey bros, like, they loved Oasis, and I associated Oasis with them. So I was like, fuck them. But now I'm like the biggest Oasis fan ever. They're just the greatest band in the world. But yeah, that was kind of musical diet is a bit mixed, you know, cross between classical music, pop music, like 80s synth pop music, and then fucking straight up classic rock. But, you know, my dad's got he's got a huge appetite for music, as I'm sure most people's dads do. Anyone from a generation that grew up in a heyday in their pump during the 70s and 80s is gonna most likely have pretty great record collection, you know. So yeah, a lot of good stuff there. But it was really when I went down to Brighton and started studying, there's like some tutors that I had, like this guy John Stewart. He introduced me to loads of great stuff, like krautrock and stuff from Germany, and just, I don't know, just like meeting like one of my best mates, Kieran. Like, he showed me so much great stuff when I first moved down that I'd never really heard of. I just had this just this naive kind of, I just like what I like I liked the Beatles, but I hadn't absolutely sifted through all of their records. You know, I didn't really know Magical Mystery Tour or even like Abbey Road or anything like that. And like my mate Kieran switched me onto that. He actually had an iPod, a spare iPod, which he gave me because I didn't have an MP3 player at the time. I mean, that's how old I am, the age of MP3 players. And that was so good for me because there was just a load of stuff on there that I didn't even know what it was. So I just went through it and listened to it all. And that was quite a big moment of discovery for me. You know, yeah, that's the long and short of it. You know, just sort of accidentally bumping into, you know, these people in my life who turn me on to great music.
Very cool. Very cool. When it comes to the entrepreneurial side of it, you know, because obviously musicians in general, a lot of musicians in general, they miss a crucial point, which is if you're forming a band, if you're writing your own songs, and if you really want to try and make a living out of this very, very difficult business, which is the music business, you have to do it yourselves, basically, from the get-go. Very rarely you're going to have people or a team of people helping you from the beginning. So when it comes to that, like, because I know you, correct me if I'm wrong, but you're the sole songwriter. You write the songs, you write the music, and you produce, and you're on the forefront when it comes to talking to, you know, business people, agents and managers and things like that. So is that something that came naturally to you, or were you involved in, were you putting up your own gigs when you started? Were you doing things like that kind of gave you an understanding on the ins and outs of how basics of business work?
Yeah, for sure. Like, Tigercub is one of those bands that you mentioned where you don't get a major record deal straight away. You don't get all of that money, and you don't get that like instant success. So, you know, if you want it badly enough, you just have to go and take it. So yeah, like throughout my whole career, I sort of seen myself as like a bit of an outsider and just sort of try to find a route towards. I just always thought, like, if I can put on a show and I can have it full of people that have come to see that show, like, that's going to attract all of the industry and all of the people that I want to be interested in what I'm doing. So that was always the main focus. Is like, how can you pack out shows? And like, there's a million ways to do that, but you've got to be smart about it at the same time, and understand like just the basics. And I'd learned a bit just back in Sunderland, just sort of like branching out and doing my own sort of originals bands and stuff, and how different that's trying to get people to come to a bar to watch a band and pay money to see it, versus like being in a covers band and just having a captive audience that you play to, which is a much easier sell. So like when I came down to Brighton, it was like just trying to figure out what the best path is to, to get a lot of people to come to your gig. And what I learned was, like, the more shows you play, you essentially just filter out your audience. So I learned, fortunately, like relatively quickly, just to do one gig a year and make that like the biggest, like one headline show a year if you can, and make that like the biggest draw and attention, that one moment where you like really bug people to come to your show. And it's funny because I'm remembering it now as I'm talking to you. So I'm like, it's a proper trip, that memory lane for me. But yeah, and that we did slog it out and do loads of support shows and say yes to every gig, and we did that, and we just didn't feel like we were really getting anywhere, because what happens is people see you, but they kind of see you too early, and maybe you're not right to be seen, and it to not present in the band the best possible light. So I learned, that it was better to put on one show and promote the living hell out of it, make it get loads of your mates' bands to play, and like surround it with a release of some kind, even if it's a self-release, and just try and get 50 of your mates to come to your gig and blow it out, and make it like an event, Mm-hmm. I don't know if that answers your question. It was a bit rambly.
Yeah, no, I get it. It's just because when I look back, myself, when I used to be an artist myself and a singer and have a band, and I basically started like doing everything on my own terms because there was no other way. So meeting like local promoters, knowing where the gigs are taking place and who's putting up those gigs and who are the local bands, and then getting together and putting gigs together, and then eventually what kind of sound do we have? What kind of music are we writing? Are we writing this particular type of music? Who are the producers? Who are the main guys producing this kind of music? Okay, great. How much does it cost to get a guy on like that on board? What's the theme? What's the artwork? Who's gonna do the artwork? Putting all those things together, then shipping out CDs back then, like this is like 15 plus years ago.
Yeah.
And contacting people
I've been there, man.
Yeah, sending everything out like in the hopes that somebody will pick up that envelope, open it, and listen to it, and send a note back to you saying, we're happy to kind of like try and make something work. Which luckily enough for me, it did happen. I got signed and I got my albums released worldwide, and did a bunch of things. But
no way.
Yeah,
the CD up. Wow.
I have 4
That's
records,
amazing,
man.
dude.
4 records released, and the first 2, I went to Japan. I was playing big shows in Brazil for like thousands of people. Was on television, and there's a story that we can talk about it at another time.
There's a lot to unpack there.
A lot to unpack. That was my main thing for many years. Then I basically decided that it was going to be easier for me to make a living and actually go to the stages where I wanted to go if I would put all my know-how and everything that I've learned on those years, plus the degree that I acquired last year in music business, into actually looking after, people that are more talented than me, or at least can write music that will reach more people than the music that I was doing. Because very niche, heavy metal. Sometimes you kind of have to have emotional intelligence to make choices on your life, and those are very difficult, very difficult. You know, we're making choices every day in our lives,
Yeah.
aren't we? I mean, who do we go out with?
Oh
What do
yeah,
we
for real,
do?
man.
Who do we work with? What does the future hold for us? And the insecurities that we have. I was just reading about again now completely on a tangent here, but like "You Are My Dopamine," track number 8 of Perfume of Decay, my favorite song. I mean, I don't know if it's my favorite song. It's just a song that I like. It really, I mean, it's just like it really. It's one of those songs that really resonates with me, and it really kind of like, I don't know, man. There's something about it, and you're talking about, you know, like love, and sometimes when you kind of like lay your guard down, and then you feel very vulnerable, and it's difficult because depending on your experiences in life, you might get into a place where you might auto sabotage yourself and whatever else is happening around you because of insecurities. And sometimes those insecurities are very difficult to defeat them, you know, and we sometimes, you know, shoot ourselves on the foot. But I don't even know why I went down this path now, but since I did that,
Keep it rolling.
since I did that, let's go and talk a little bit like fast forward, man. I mean, like, I must be honest with you, I haven't heard about Tigercub till our good friend Tony Couch mentioned the band
Yeah.
to me a while back, and before Perfume of Decay was released, the new album just released this past June. He sent that album to me, and obviously Tony being Tony, I was like, okay, let's listen to this very carefully. But it's like music for me, there's something that
Right.
always happens. If I listen to something and it literally clicks with me quickly, it tends for me to just wear it off. I'm not gonna, I don't know. I just I let it go. But if it's something that I kind of have to revisit and revisit and revisit, it tends to grow. And there was a moment literally a few weeks ago that I did something that very rarely people tend to do it nowadays, which is literally taking the time to listen to the whole record, song after song, reading the words, all of it, you know.
Oh, cool.
And
Yeah.
and man, when I did that, it was just like, it literally like fell in love with it. So congratulations on that. It's a fantastic
That's dope.
album. I really, really, really love,
Thanks.
and I know that a lot of people are raving about it. It's a great piece of work, and I wanted you to tell us a little bit about how the evolution from the first 2 records and the EPs that you guys released got to what the Perfume of Decay is all about, because it's such a concise album. It's a very mature album. It's everything that you always mention on previous interviews of yours in terms of like big riffs, catchy songs. The production is really good. How did you manage to get to the point, and how long did it take for you to put this album together and eventually get in the studio, record it, and produce it yourself? Because you produced it yourself, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I did. Okay. Well, yeah, it's an interesting subject, really. You touched on it earlier, the previous like pod discussion. Like realizing like who you are and what you want to be is like such a huge part of it all, and seeing where you sit and what is the most important style of music to you, and what comes most naturally to you. And that took Tigercub quite a long time to figure out. You know, we've stylistically traveled quite far from how we sounded originally to where we are now, in my opinion. And it's more been like this journey of trying to escape the bands that we sound like. So trying not to sound as derivative to music listeners' ears. I think ultimately with like heavy guitar rock, it's kind of impossible to do that. Ultimately, there will always be some comparisons drawn, and like you can't really escape that. But that has always been a big thing on our agenda. So like when we released an EP in 2013, and then we released a single called Blue Blood 2014, and it sounded really Nirvana-y. And for ages we were just getting tarred with like they sound like Nirvana, and it got to a point I felt where like that really was getting in the way of how people actually enjoyed the song for what it is and what the meaning behind the song is. And it just felt like that was too loud an element in the whole like makeup of Tigercub, that it was starting to have a detrimental effect. So that like after that single, it really was a process of like us just trying to shed our skin constantly and trying to land on something, a combination of ideas that really fit and is authentically Tigercub, and there's always a little bit of a conversation to be had there between the two opposing forces of artistic integrity and commercial viability, because you have to take those two elements very seriously as an artist. There's only that could be like really successful and give themselves the means to keep making great music and making great art with really experimental music that is like totally disinterested in pleasing its listener, and it's just solely for the search of something brand new and something that's like viciously unique. But I think for the rest of us, especially in the sort of rock world, I like music that's quite commercially viable. I like pop music, so that doesn't feel like it's too much of a concession for me to make as an artist. But that was a big element of Tigercub on our journey so far as well. And I feel like the first record, Abstract Figures in the Dark, was maybe like lent too far into the experimental world and was a bit disjointed because of it. I still rate it as a record, but if I was to be like super critical. And then I would say As Blue as Indigo maybe lent too far into the commercial world and like was a little bit too similar sounding and maybe a little bit generic sounding. Whereas like the Perfume of Decay now feels like, I just feel like it's the best balance of, us being our own thing and it being unique to what my voice is and what I have to say as a songwriter. But it also feels like commercially it's doing best out of all of our records, and it seems to be reaching more people and have a more immediate effect in converting people when they listen to it first time. Usually in a Spotify playlist, that's kind of the domain that people discover you in these days. And I feel like the Perfume of Decay really does the best job of all of those things. And I really think just like gothic rock music that's fucking heavy, but really almost kind of wussy at how emotional it is. That's just really the music I love. I fucking love bands that sound like that, and that's what I always go back to and I will never deviate from. So I really feel like we've come home, we've arrived.
Man,
the Cygnus Free Records to get, we've done it,
God bless. It's like, it really is like my favorite band right now. I gotta tell you that. Sorry for like, giving you too many compliments, but it's the absolute truth.
That's all right. No, I love it, man. It makes me happy.
I can't wait to see it live, man. Honestly, I'm like, I've been watching the videos on YouTube and everything, and I'm like, because there's always that thing as well that you listen to a record and it sounds so good, and then okay, let's go and check the band live. Let's go and check the videos online, and Tigercub is definitely one of those bands that live it delivers it. It's like, and I was searching for like if I could find obviously my favorite songs from the last album, but obviously those haven't been played live yet, right? There's a bunch of songs that they are not.
No, we've got queued up. We'll be hitting the States, West Coast of America, in September through to October, and then we'll be heading back to the UK as well with a show in London, Brighton, everywhere good in the UK, and we'll be brandishing those riffs. In the new set for sure, mate. Brandishing them wholesale.
I love it.
A riff beast. I mean, great.
Jamie, be mindful of your time, my friend. I'm gonna start to kind of like we would have so much more to talk, and I'm sure we're gonna have like a part 2 of this at some point, but let me get into some of my so-called roller coaster questions. First one would be Do you have or follow any morning routines, rituals yourself?
No, I'm not a morning person at all. I'm super nocturnal. Uh, my morning rituals is basically like drinking coffee and not eating any food until like really late on in the day, or not at all. I'm like intermittently fasting loads at the minute, which can just get so out of hand. But yeah, it's normally just like wake up, either go to the studio, smoke some cigarettes, and drink black tea. It's the proper, yeah, yeah. It's not very healthy, but that is my routine, and just write songs, and deal with bullshit.
Mm.
You know, the hate sponge. Yeah.
What's your spiritual practice, if any at all? Do you have any beliefs yourself?
I believe there is a higher power. I'm not practicing in any particular religion. I'll probably return back to a religion of some sort, because I really, really love and respect the positive effect that organized religion can have on the community of people, and it offers like loads and loads of strength. It offers strength to people in their darkest hour, and I've had people in my life, in my darkest times, the people that have come rescue me have been people of faith, and people have said prayers for me and stuff when I've been in really dark places, and it's helped. So, you know, I have a renewed understanding and appreciation of people who have faith. So I would count myself as one of those people at the minute, but I'm kind of in the agnostic, traveling into spiritual world at the minute, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's your view about money?
I want all of it. Want it.
I love it.
It's great. It's great, man. No, you know, money is something which can enable you to do really cool shit. You know, I've never been one for superficial possessions. I see money as this like motivating tool that you can employ to do really cool things. I'm always thinking of it with like, how can I get the band to this point? How can I get the band to this point? How can we reinvest? How can we grow? You know, that's how I mean that's how I mean it, you know. And you know, you want, yeah, as you get older, you want things like security in life, and you want to, you know, build a future for yourself. Had a sort of nihilistic approach to money in my 20s, you know, and just thought all property was theft and all of that stuff. And you know, I'm not so inclined to those views anymore. Sort of understand that money's an important commodity in our world, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Make shit happen.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a creation, obviously, like everything else that we experience in this existence of ours. And unfortunately, there's no way around it. There's no way to not navigate this existence without it. And at times drives us nuts because of, you know, how do you make more money? How do you fund the things that you want to experience in this existence? How do you have a family? How do you buy a house? All of those questions that we all endure, face, and like very constantly in our lives, and at the same time nurturing you know, things that we want to do for our own sake and for the people around us. It's definitely something that can drive people nuts, but it's extremely important. And if you can actually earn via doing something that you are passionate about, surrounded by people that you like, and working with people that you like spending time with, I mean, it's a wonderful gift, isn't it?
Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. It is a beautiful thing, you know. And some people, you know, live their lives where, you know, they go and earn money, and they express themselves in other parts of their lives. And some people like us, I guess, like we chose a path where we want to make, our job, our hobby, our jobby, and we earn money through a more enjoyable means. But however you get money, as long as you're happy and fulfilled and able to communicate and express yourself, that's the ticket to happiness, I think.
Absolutely.
But money's great. I think sometimes people can have it's quite a popular opinion, sort of opposed to money making and different things like that. But I think as long as it's not like exploitative, I don't think there's anything wrong with being ambitious and wanting to go and fucking get after it and
Definitely.
just make a success of yourself.
What's a perfect day in your life?
Get up, go studio, I pissed afterwards in the studio.
Simples.
Listen to music. It's the best. It's the fucking best, man. Wake up, get down the studio, have a great productive day, really happy with what you've written or what you've worked on, and then just get the beers out in the control rooms, listen to music, have a party. It's the best thing ever. I fucking love it. Yeah, that's the vibe.
Fantastic.
That's the vibe.
I know you like practicing intermittent fasting, as you said earlier on at the moment. I do it myself as well, on purpose. I don't know if you're doing it on purpose or not, but I'm doing it on purpose. But whenever you you're like in need of a treat, you want to treat yourself and you want to be cheeky. You want to have that food that, it's not healthy. You would eat it regularly, but you try not to because, it's not particularly good for you. It could be a sweet, it could be fry up, could be whatever. What would that be? What would you go for? What would you do to treat yourself besides, having a good selection of beers?
Yes, man, it's got to be hash browns, dude. I don't know what it is. I just am fucking mad for browns. That's like my ultimate comfort food. I don't know why. It's just
hash browns on their own?
Combination of this on their own, dude, with the sauce, of course.
Oh,
it's just way better than chips, right? So that's my vibe at the minute, just sort of big tubby carb boy eating hash browns all the time and drinking beer. It's a nightmare.
Do you take any supplements like multivitamins or anything like that?
No. I do. I eat spinach and I do have a somewhat balanced lifestyle. But no, I don't take any supplements. I really should do. I used to take iron supplements, but don't do that anymore, mate.
I'll bring some suggestions to the table for you to see if you enjoy it. It's just that very basic thing, pop a couple of capsules a day and you are boom, ticking the boxes, minerals, vitamins, micronutrients, boom, done, easy.
Yeah. Totally, man. All in tablet form.
What are you reading at the moment? Do you read much these days, or are you just music focused? What's happening?
I'm not really reading much at the minute. I was reading Junkie by William S. Burroughs, sort of intermittently again, which is great. I usually just I'll pick at Naked Lunch a bit because that's always a thrill just to dive into. And then before that, I was trying to read The Great of Wrath, but I only got to the second chapter. But yeah, not really reading at the minute, to be honest, in any big way.
Are you into podcasts? Are you into podcasts and series? Do you tend to kind of binge on series and things like that, or is it not your thing?
I do, but I just watch, me and my partner Alice, we just watch our favourite comedies over and over again. But no, we like series as well. Like, we're really into Succession. Massive fan of like Brass Eye, Goth Marenghi's Dark Place, Peep Show, that whole kind of Island Partridge, The Office, just that classic sort of British, sort of early noughties comedy. But yeah, we're sort of like looking for things really to watch at the minute. We're rewatching the Blair and Brown years on the iPlayer, which is that documentary about Tony Blair and Gordon Brown's premiership, which is quite interesting. But yeah, man, there's just so much out there. Jesus, I just consume so much content.
Yeah,
constantly. It's hard to really keep track of it. I've just got the fucking feed bag on, and I'm just sort of inhaling content constantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as podcasts go, my taste in podcasts is fucking awful. I mean, I listen to BBC Five Live a lot to get to sleep. Just the fucking like blokes twatting on about football, which is just so tragic. But it's so boring, it puts me to sleep. I have this like, I like to hate watch a lot of things, hate stream things. So I listen to the Nelk Boys podcast, and like the Logan Paul impulsive thing. I don't know. I just have weird. It's like I'm kind of obsessed with how much it annoys me. I'm like obsessed, and like I don't know. What about you, man? What are you on? Any good tips? Any recommendations at the minute?
I'm quite into. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts myself. I'm a big fan of Lex Friedman, Tim Ferriss. I listen a lot.
He's great.
Yeah, I listen to all the Dr. Huberman podcasts. He's a professor of Stanford University, and he basically, every episode is just like a lesson on things about health, about things that you don't particularly think about in terms of circadian rhythm. How does light affect your life, and mornings and evenings, and the biology of every aspect of our organism? How can you optimize yourself in order to be proactive, not have a clouded mind? How to, understand a little bit more about this crazy thing that we are, which is the human body. We don't think about it. We just are. We just stand up, we have a brain that coordinates how my hands are moving now. I'm not thinking exactly why, all of those things that are part of who we believe that we are, which is another conversation that I don't particularly believe that we are this figure in front of us. I think we're all pure consciousness, all one thing, but then we interact with each other via five senses, which is all we know. We don't know anything outside of the five senses. And very good, amazing podcast. I find that incredible, the fact that nowadays you can just put on your earphones, and listen to a professor of Stanford giving you everything about everything. I find that amazing. Quite a few podcasts.
I'll have to check that out, man.
Definitely, man. I'll share it with you. It's fantastic. Dr. Huberman is great. And I listen a lot to Rupert Spira, which is a professor from Oxford as well, a guy that is really like delivering the message about, consciousness and presence and who we really are. Moody, which is another guy that I love. I mean, there's quite a few, so I mean, I'm constantly every day, whenever I'm not like focusing on something that doesn't demand my full attention, I'm always with my earphones. I'm listening to something, be that an audiobook or a podcast. When it comes to series, man, and television, honestly, I love comedy as well. I mean, like 2.5 Men, Charlie Sheen, I watched that like time and time again. Like whenever I need a smile on my face, that's what I go for. Haven't really watched anything super particularly great recently, but in the evenings, if I don't have any commitments, I kind of like to, I mean, where I live here, I'm next, for example, I'm going to finish this conversation with you and I'm just going to go for a walk in Primrose Hill, because the evening is amazing. The sunset is just beautiful.
Nice.
But I really like, watching something, on the telly just to kind of like, put myself to sleep as well. But yeah, that's a lot of the things that I kind of like. I'm constantly trying to learn and getting information, and sometimes it's an overload. Sometimes I do feel, because I'm the kind of person that listens, for example, this is going to be crazy, but I don't listen to podcasts on speed 1. You have different speeds, right? That you can listen to.
Oh, you speak up. Yeah.
So at first, when somebody told me you should try, so you can consume more, I was like, no, I want to listen to like on the pace that they're having the conversation. And then I started 1.2, and then I went to 1.5, and now I'm on 1.75, and Spotify is actually 1.8. So it's like, you know, conversations go fast.
Fucking hell. And do you still feel like you can, like, are you still taking in the information? Is it still like, are you imbibing it still
Depending on
at that speed?
depending on the subject, I have to slow it down. Depending on the subject, I will slow it down. But if it's not a very dense subject, if it's not somebody also that speaks very quickly, I'll maintain it. And but yeah, there is that as well. There's a lot, because a lot of the things that you listen, or that I personally listen and read, they make sense. I take them in and I put somehow into practice, but I'm not able to explain it. I'm not a scholar. I can't give a lesson or teach somebody about. So I find amazing the fact that the more information you get about certain subjects, it becomes part of who you are and how you interact and how you behave. And if you're listening to good stuff, if you're getting good information, which is, again, very difficult nowadays to get, there's a lot of misinformation out there and all good stuff. But if you find the right avenues, it's fantastic. It's fantastic. It's a blessing in disguise, actually, because I guess the more you learn, the more you know, the less you have interest for like conversations about, her hair is super nice. Oh my God, did you see what she did yesterday? That kind of thing, and that puts you on a bracket that it's difficult, it's difficult. But then again, you kind of have to make choices and decide what's worth it for you, if it's worth wasting your time.
I get you, yeah. If you get too far into that stuff, it's harder. It's just different gears in your mind, isn't it, just to switch into, and you do need that, though. It's like everything in moderation, including moderation. You do need that, like, that sort of real basic level that you can sort of drop down to, just to give your mind a little bit of a rest. Because, sometimes if I'm getting into stuff that's too heavy or it's too much going on in my life, I just get really tired, I just get really foggy, that's just like a sort of exhaustion that starts to come off me. So I kind of need the sort of really cheap, like, sort of TV or entertainment or even conversation that kind of does all the work for you, and it's not too taxing. Every now and again, I think is really useful in like your content diet, because all of that, the Lex Fridman stuff, and like, I mean, if you're listening to podcasts by like university professors, it's going to be quite dense, so I could totally imagine that being like, it could consume you as well, because they're like really, really big, these huge questions, these huge like spiritual humanity, questions that you're wrestling with. It's large. I mean, for me, that's why making art is great, because you can process that stuff through those channels, and talking discourse is such a great medium for it. But, making a piece of art, writing a song, expressing yourself some way, that's such a great mechanism for dealing with these like larger questions in life, and like the sort of human condition sort of thing, and how to process happiness, sadness, how to process the way you perceive the world. It's interesting. It's an interesting question, really. What sort of stuff do you watch? It's quite like simple, but it just made me think of it.
Yeah,
because I watch a load of shit.
Jamie, my friend, thank you so much for taking the time, man.
Buddy.
Thank you for like the conversation.
No worries, man. So great to see you.
Great to see you. And we're definitely going to do a part 2 down the road of this, and dive down into existential topics, go a little bit deeper.
Let's get one in the calendar. Yeah, let's get back and let's go for like a deep dive. Fucking, we'll both be crying by the end of it. Yeah.
Dude, tell me about it. Yeah. I think I'm in need of that a little bit, really, to get some emotions out of the system.
For real, man. Death of the ego. Let's go for it.
Death of the ego, so difficult to deal with it. I meditate every day, you know. I've been meditating for the last 6 years, and I do it every morning religiously, and sometimes at different parts of the day. And I tend to believe in many areas of my life that I'm very strong and I'm very on point, but there are still things, you know, that sometimes they, I mean, you just can't really, it's difficult to process it. And and even though you observe your mind, you're trying to not be your mind, it's that feeling, man, that it's inside of you that you can't just pass by, you know, you can't just let go.
Mhm.
And anyway, this is a conversation for another time.
We need to get into. It's annoying. I've got to go, but we need to get into this, man. Because yeah, I have some thoughts on that stuff.
Cool.
I'll leave you with that though. It's like I do think a lot of people, there's this desire to process everything, and I wonder whether that is necessary. I think like sadness and things not clicking and things not feeling right is is part of life that we have to accept. You know what I mean? It's we could get so deep into that. Maybe that was a foolish thing to end on, because that's sort of like a little seed grain for us to follow down the rabbit hole. But yeah, we'll roll it back.
For sure.
Nice one, buddy.
And let's try and have a beer sometime soon, man. Either in London or in Brighton. Let's plan something, man.
Let's do it. Do you like football?
I love football. Come on. I was watching football in Brazil all night long this past night. The most amazing match of the century happened last night in Brazil. My family was in the stadium, 50,000 strong.
Fuck it. Yeah, let's go a football match.
Fuck yeah. Let's do that.
Yeah, dude. Let's do that. I want to do that. Okay. I'll WhatsApp you.
Perfect. Jamie, speak to you soon, my
Nice
friend.
one, buddy. So great to see you.
Great to see you.
All right.
Have a good evening.
Speak to you soon, all right?
Speak soon.
Cheers, bro.
Cheers. Bye. I hope you guys enjoyed this conversation, this podcast, as much as I did doing it. So if that's the case, please do follow on Instagram at rollercoastercarl, myself at Carl Casagrande, on Twitter, same thing, Facebook, same thing. Do subscribe on iTunes, subscribe on Spotify. That's very, very much appreciated. Thank you, and have a great day. Cheers. Bye-bye.